All right, on to tutorial number one here about the marketing mix. And really what we're after in the study of marketing is understanding the drivers of demand. We're going to use the movie industry as an illustration here. So Super 8, big time movie directed by J.J. Abrams, produced by Steven Spielberg, 1979, Ohio. Kids making a zombie movie with a Super 8 camera, and all hell breaks loose, and there's military, and there's explosions, and there's aliens, and on and on and on. Really interesting concept, big time director and producer. However, 2 days before it opens, the studio is nervous. They're worried because their initial projections are for only an opening of about 25 to 30 million, which is not great for a movie of this caliber. And in particular, they're worried about younger audiences because the research they're doing in the week before suggests that they're not really hooking up with those folks. So what do? Well, it's a really interesting illustration of a new age application of social media. So they have Facebook, they have Twitter pages, and kind of a regular Twitter page, but then they have the secret Twitter space in which you can get promotions. If you can discover it, you can see 5 or 6 minute clips of the movie. And in fact, 100,000 people got to see the movie a day early because they were able to discover that it was being played in certain locations. So interesting application. I'm going to ask a more general question here about it. So how much does the studio's early actions regarding marketing communications help a movie's box office receipts? Now keep in mind that when we talk about the marketing mix, there are a variety of factors that drive and influence demand, including the product itself, which in this case we'll see is the quality of the movie, pricing, which will hold constant here, distribution, and promotion. So our main question is about promotion, but we cannot really ask that independently of these other factors. Well, we have a study, in fact, by Hennig, Houston, and Sridhar. It was published in Marketing Letters in 2006 that helps us get to an answer here. Can good marketing carry a bad product? Evidence from the motion picture industry. Here's what these authors did. They looked at 331 movies over a 2-year period, top 50 movies distributed in North America, and they said, built a structural equations model. They said, well, let's consider the studio's actions. How much did the studio put into the production of the movie? To what extent are there big time stars? And you can actually get metrics on this, both the directors and the stars themselves. How much money are they putting into that? How much did they spend on advertising in promoting the movie? To what degree was it distributed widely? Well, these things are things that the studio does up front to help build demand, obviously. But then they also had and developed and found metrics of movie quality. So from a variety of sources, they have reviews post hoc. So from Metascore, from CinemaScore, from IMDb, from movie guides, both critics and consumers. So it's really some kind of an objective score here of the entertainment value of the movie. And the question is, to what extent do those two factors influence OWBO is opening weekend box office? And their model also integrated long-term box office. So long-term box office is all the ticket revenue that did not occur on the opening weekend. So interesting set of questions here. And we'll just jump right to the results. A little asterisk means this is statistically significant. Huge effect of the studio actions on opening weekend box office. Interestingly, much bigger effect than movie quality. Now, one of the things to keep in mind here is that movies are what we would call experience goods, as opposed to search goods. Search goods, a computer, a car. You go out and you actually test drive it. You test it out. You can just view the features and so forth before you buy. Movie, you can't. You can't experience it until you've actually purchased it. So you would expect this. You would expect that this effect would be lower. However, it's still statistically significant, which is kind of interesting. But for opening weekend, studio actions kind of dominate the explanation. You have a good opening weekend, right? It really contributes to the longer-term box office. So these are important factors, and probably as we would expect. But here's kind of a counterintuitive and interesting result here. Longer term. Now, longer term, note that these coefficients are smaller because there's a lot of other factors that will affect long-term box office, like the economy and the entry of other movies and so forth. But note that it is completely dominated. The explanation of long-term box office is completely dominated by movie quality. In fact, studio actions are not even significant. Right, so all the studio actions are operating through opening weekend box office. Longer term, the demand ultimately is driven by the quality of the movie. Now, what these authors were interested in was whether or not their studio actions, in particular advertising they were interested in, could compensate for, well, what if you don't have such a great movie? Okay. Now, this suggests no, and let me give you a more explicit illustration of that. What percentage increase in advertising dollars, advertising spending would be needed to raise movie revenue by 10%? This is kind of a sensitivity analysis that the authors were able to undertake because the response coefficients they had helped them link advertising spending to sales of the movie, and they could do so for different quality movies. So they grouped movies into poor quality, medium, and high. And they raised this question. Here's the answer to in their analysis. You'd have to spend 68% more on advertising to produce a 10% increase for a poor quality movie. Okay, medium. And by the way, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. About half the amount of work for medium quality movies. Now, this may seem counterintuitive for high quality movies. That's minus 18%. It means you actually could reduce advertising spending. What it suggests, and you find this in other contexts, is that these studios were actually overspending on advertising for the high quality movies. Okay? Actually overspending. They didn't need to spend as much on advertising. So let's kind of pull this together here. What Henning et al. Conclude is that in the long run, quality is the best driver of box office revenues. Here's our question originally. How much does the studio's actions regarding market communications help a movie's box office receipts? Well, in the short term, a lot. Right? It does have a significant impact on opening weekend box office. Longer term, however, effective quality is substantially greater than the effect of marketing communications initially. Right? The reason is that quality generates word of mouth. Now, I mentioned there were 100,000 folks who got to see this movie, Super 8, early because they discovered it on Twitter. The vice chairman of Paramount Studios is saying, you know what, that was the difference for us between the movie opening in the low $30 million range, which was the projections as of a few days before the movie started, and the actual, which was, I didn't tell you, but the actual opening weekend was 37 million. More attributes that difference to those 100,000 people who were captured via Twitter and took action. Why? Because those folks are motivated, energized. They're the opinion leaders. All right, they generate word of mouth. Key conclusion here, though, the demand is really a function of all of these things, and in particular, the factors by which you create substantive value, particularly the product. Promotion is how you communicate the value you've created. So it's kind of follow-up after we've created information and functional value and other types of value for folks. This is how we communicate it. It's a package deal. All right. It's a package deal. So thanks very much, and we'll see you soon.